Hey everybody, this is Rod Meldon, the Book of Mormon Evidence Guy, and we're sitting here at the Firm Foundation Expo, the 34th International Book of Mormon Evidence Conference. I have with me David Butler here. He's just a fabulous speaker and researcher. And what do you think some more about the Expo?
Very kind of you, Rod. Thanks for having me. What a great event you
Our
put
pleasure.
on. This is my second. I came to the first one earlier this year that was in Sandy down on State Street, and was impressed. Then you've got a very big. You draw a lot of people. I love that. I love the energy.
we've been blessed.
People who are interested in proactively learning more about the Book of Mormon, principally, but
Yeah.
I think you could say the gospel, or
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. I love that there's a very big tent kind of feeling to the whole event.
Which is a little bit kind of funny considering we had a big tent out here and
That's
it
right.
got blown off the
That's
hill
right.
by the wind. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to break in
No,
on
no,
that,
no,
but we
no,
did actually have that happen, everybody.
Yeah, I didn't
It
mean
was
to
kind of
ironically
crazy.
invoke that. Yes, there
We
was
do
a
have
big
a big
tent.
We did have
Yeah.
a big tent, yes.
It got stolen. No, but I mean, I think there's an unfortunate tendency in some kind of Book of Mormon research to kind of excommunicate others from our platform, and I'm going to build a little ideological fort, and only people in my fort are allowed inside, and and we got a lot of presenters talking about a lot of different things,
Yeah.
all related to the Book of Mormon, I think, but
Yeah.
from pretty different perspectives, and I think that's really terrific.
Well, that is one thing that when we first started doing these expos, was it, 17 years ago?
Oh wow,
When
yeah.
we started doing these, we had a handful of people, and it was kind of just focused on just kind of archaeological evidence,
Uh-huh.
and then I kind of brought in some of the passages involving the prophecies and promises and things like that. That
Yeah.
Bruce Porter and I and
Yeah.
Wayne May and others were involved with all that. But I always knew that we're just kind of setting up kind of a skeleton, if you will, kind of
Yeah.
a framework, and the other people with deeper expertise in certain specific areas would come along that would be going, oh, okay, so this is the framework, and oh, look at this. This piece fits right here, and it's
Yeah.
just beautiful. And I think that's one of the things that I'm really impressed with your presentation
Thank you.
earlier today.
Yeah.
Is just your knowledge of the Hebrew language and how important that is to an understanding of the scriptures in general.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about what you were talking to us a little bit earlier about.
Yeah. So today I presented on, ultimately, some, I think, unexpected background to the scene at the Waters of Mormon, and the nature of that unexpected background is that scene and Alma the Elder are tagged with a number of markers that we would associate with the divine feminine. They are heavenly mother kind of markers, and which is really interesting. Now, Alma is a weird guy anyway, right? He shows up. Here's Alma, right?
Yeah.
We've been hearing about Abinadi. Suddenly, here's Alma. We don't really know where he's descended from Nephi. It's kind of all we know. We don't know who ordained him or where his priesthood was. And to make it weirder, he baptizes himself at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. And so I presented on kind of a couple of different lines of converging evidence that are in the Old Testament and the Book of Mormon that suggest that the symbols of the living beasts, the wild beasts, the
forests,
waters,
the trees,
the forests, as well as the name Alma, which I think Mormon tells us the name, and then he plays on it immediately with the word Elam, a young man, and some form of the verb alam, to conceal. Alma conceals himself, to tell us what the meaning of the name is. The name is semantically connected to eternity, things which are hidden, and the virgin. That's the same word that appears in Isaiah 7, the virgin who bears Emmanuel. And all of those markers kind of converge really to raise more questions from the point of view of the reader, right? I mean, it's sort of, I think I had a list of 5 or 6 so what's, but to reduce them to 2, from the point of view of the reader, we have different questions to ask about Alma than possibly we thought we have to ask, right? Why?
Yeah.
What? His name is so perfect, like many other biblical or Israelite or Book of Mormon characters. His name is so perfect, you wonder if that was actually his name, or if he was given that label by Mormon,
That's more of a
or even by himself, to sort of mark something about his nature. Like if I met him, right? So questions about Alma, what is his experience that brings him to the waters of Mormon? And is that part, and this, maybe this, right? This is all in Mosiah, middle Mosiah, Mosiah 17, 18. So maybe it's stuff that we've lost, right? Maybe it's
some of the 116
the so-called
pages.
116 pages that were apparently 400 or whatever.
Yeah.
And does that influence the fact that when Alma gets to the Nephites, right? Mosiah has priests, but nevertheless he hands over the whole the spiritual welfare of the people. He seems to keep his own priests, but he seems to say, okay, but for the people, he puts this guy Alma in charge, right? And so like so that mystery gets, I think deeper and gains an interesting kind of nuance. But then the other point is the great and this is maybe the sort of here I am at the Book of Mormon Evidences Expo. The great complexity with which the Book of Mormon interacts with the biblical narrative and itself, different parts of it interact with each other, make it very difficult for me to think that somebody even today sat down and would devise such a thing.
Made that up.
Right, much less in 1829, and then not ever notice it, and then just kind of let it go under the radar.
Well, some of the things you're bringing up in the presentation today, and making comparisons between biblical passages and so forth, and the Hebrew words and what those mean, was really pretty fascinating stuff.
Thank you. It's a lot of fun. Some of it is stuff I've written about before. Some of it is not. The stuff about Shaddai is not stuff I've written about before, or stuff I hadn't really thought about it very much. I've read about it in sort of Gentile scholars' works. I am not the first person to think that Shaddai might mean the breasted one, a god with breasts. But I might be the first person to have noticed that the term appears in the Book of Mormon in a number of places, right? And provocative places. This is one example. Alma, by what authority does Alma baptize at the waters of Mormon? By the authority of El Shaddai, is what it appears to say, which may be the father and the mother together, or maybe it's the mother. Right. In either case, it's not what we'd expect. We always sort of expect that whatever the Nephites did was kind of the same thing we did, right? Having been commissioned, right?
So what do you think? What do you think of the idea, though, that basically we don't really talk much about a heavenly mother?
Yeah,
right?
we don't.
And but we know she exists because that was something that was told that it was kind of too sacred, right?
Yeah.
But we know from temple ceremonies and so forth that when husband and wife are inseparably connected through the bonds of matrimony and through eternal celestial marriage, basically, that priesthood actually kind of becomes kind of one.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you think?
Boy, these are big questions, Rod.
Yeah, these are big questions.
I'm sympathetic to that answer to the question, right? Well, let me tell you here, I actually think we are at a very early stage of our understanding of what priesthood is.
Yeah.
So I think as we repent and get better, I think we might find that priesthood looks very different for us from what it looks now. But I absolutely think that in some sense the unit seems to be a married couple. On this question of like whether it is too sacred, whether there's some reason not to talk about Heavenly Mother, I'm not sure about this. Someone was sharing a research with me last weekend that suggested that is not rooted in anything, and I could be wrong. I'm repeating secondhand something that was told to me, so I could get egg on my face easily, but that doesn't actually come from any general authority at all. That the origin of it is that it came out of like the first recorded publication of this idea as a California Institute teacher.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that's true or not. I tend to trust the source that told me.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever heard the church officially say, "Oh, we don't talk about Heavenly Mother." I
Well, we know
suspect.
we've been asked not to pray to her specifically,
Oh,
but
for sure. We pray to the Father in the
but
name
we
of
know
Jesus.
she exists.
Right.
God would not be God
Right.
without her.
Right. And I think,
Yeah.
to be candid, I think one reason why we probably don't talk about her a lot is because we spent a good deal of time in the 20th century trying to look like American Christians.
Yeah.
And the more we talk about the Heavenly Mother, right,
The
is
more
like
odd it becomes.
we
Yes.
sort of lose that, right? Because
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
I suspect there are cultural factors, and I also
Agree.
this is me, right? So I don't see myself as a Heavenly Mother guy, in the sense that I don't think I'm out trying to like
Yeah.
agitate for
Yeah.
anything
Right.
about
Right.
we need to. I certainly have never advised anyone to pray to Heavenly Mother, or that. Right.
Any of that,
This
yeah.
is. I see myself as a Book of Mormon guy.
This is more of an intellectual pursuit, as I would kind of see it, maybe.
Yeah, I'm.
In
That's
fact,
right.
How long have you been involved in this research?
Man, you're very kind to use the word research. It feels more like staring at a wall. I have spent a lot of my life staring at a wall, thinking I am pretty sure there's something here, and then in flashes I see things.
Uh-huh.
But coming out of college, I got a bachelor's degree in Near Eastern Studies, and
From where?
BYU.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
and have always been a reader, and so I spent years riding commuter trains, reading biblical scholarship and reading kind of dead languages stuff, and I was convinced from the 1990s that again, sort of the whole divine feminine thing for me. And I don't want to. I'm not trying to disown it, but like for me, it's the secondary. For me, the thing is the Book of Mormon,
Yes.
and the
Yeah.
thing I've been looking at, and that I was convinced about 30 years ago, was that the Book of Mormon is temple literature. That it was written by temple prophets, and that it contained temple information. And and for a long time that was a feeling, and I was really like it's like I could smell it. Like I couldn't see what it was. I couldn't articulate why, but I would go and read the Enochic literature, or I'd go read the pseudepigraphical stuff or the Dead Sea Scrolls, and I'm like, man, the Book of Mormon feels right here, and it feels right with this temple stuff, and I can't quite. And I stared at it for the longest time, and it was really only what happened is I got called to teach elders quorum, and I got this forum where I could basically experiment and use it to work out ideas.
Yeah.
And it was only about 12 years ago that I was able to articulate this stuff well enough to start writing about it. And that's really my interest. Is I want to share with people a vision that I have, which is that the Book of Mormon is meant to be read through temple lenses. It's better understood when you read it through the lens of your temple experience and what you can reconstruct of the Nephite temple experience. The relationship with the divine feminine is that as you sort of peel back that veil, you start seeing Nephi and Lehi use temple ordinance language to talk to you, and you go, how did I not see that for 45 years? One of the things that repeats over and over and over again, or some of the things that repeat over and over again in the Book of Mormon, are these kind of feminine markers. The tree of life is a huge one.
Yeah.
It is the great specter that haunts the Book of Mormon, and so again, I have no agenda. I am not trying. We pray to the Father in the name of the Son. That's what we do, right? People. I was talking to someone last week who was astonished that I did not have a personal discipline, spiritual discipline involving Mother in Heaven. I don't. I have a very conventional LDS. I'm an elders quorum secretary. I'm a very ordinary guy. All right, hair notwithstanding. I'm a normal guy. But I think as a people, what's going to happen is we're going to successfully come to a better understanding of the Book of Mormon, or we're going to fail, right? And I don't know what failure means, but it will be ugly. And if we come to that better understanding, I think one of the things that is there, that is near the surface, is a better understanding of what we are supposed to do with the feminine aspect of the divine, right? If that means we get taught a new order of prayer, or if we change the way we organize priesthood, I don't know. I don't have an agenda, right? It's not mine to push for anything. I don't have an idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that is some of the stuff that is in there, or that will be available when we understand the Book of Mormon, because there are so many of those markers: the Tree of Life, the Virgin, the Almighty, Alma, other stuff.
I think that's kind of what you're talking about, the big tent information, because that we have, like, for example, Jonathan Neville talks about multiple competing hypotheses, and
yes,
and we to be able to explore. In fact, I think that the Lord expects us to go out and explore additional information, things that maybe give us a new perspective. But one of the things I've found that over the years, and I'm sure you found the same thing, and pretty much anybody who does any kind of research finds the same thing. That is, the more you think you know, the more we realize how little we all know.
Oh, 100%.
We just 100%. We're just looking through a glass, darkly, in many respects. But every now and again you get that little spark, that something that somebody goes, aha.
Yeah.
And that's when I had a couple of other interviews where I talked to people about a lot of people go, I'm kind of a purist. I just want to I just want to get my information just straight from the scriptures and the prophets, and that's it. And that's I applaud those people, and that's kind of great. But the Lord actually has said that when people have been given further light and knowledge and so forth, they have kind of a requirement to share that.
Yeah.
Because not everybody can be expert. I think just like you're an expert in something, I'm an expert in something.
Yeah.
We're all ignorant in everything else.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And so we need each other. Yeah. Because life is too short to be able to study all of these different things in any kind of depth. But when somebody comes along like yourself, David, and has been able to do a particular thing based on your life's history and the things that you've done, writing those commuter trains and reading these oddball books and so forth that nobody else is watching. Everybody's watching on their phone or something, or they're playing a game or something. And here you are
with an Egyptian grammar or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Correct.
But we can all learn.
Yeah.
From guys like you who've done the deep dive, gone down the rabbit hole on a particular area. Yeah. And been able to tease out some of the nuggets of truth, some of the things of knowledge that can bless everyone's lives. That's what we're after.
I love that, Rod. I think that's amazing, and I think what will really like our culture can, personal culture, but our cultural culture can really help. Can facilitate that kind of information sharing, or it can really stomp on it, right? Yeah. And I personally, look, I was about 40 years old when I looked at myself and I said, turns out I am irredeemably a weirdo. I had been in denial for a long time. I felt uncomfortable with myself, and at the age of 40, I was like, like, this is it. I'm not suddenly going to become an ordinary guy. So,
embrace it.
I'm going to try to be God's weirdo, and like, that's it, right? That's success or nothing. And so I love the idea of, community of believers, and the truth is we all have slightly different perspectives, even slightly different beliefs, but we're all trying to be on the same path together, and the ability to talk freely about that, and to even say weird things, and have people say, well, Dave, that is weird, but that, but that's interesting. Let's talk about it. Right. Yeah. And discuss in a way that maybe I can go, oh yeah, that was a mistake. Right. I certainly changed my mind over time.
You bet.
That's
something that happens when you're seeking for truth rather than just trying to push an agenda.
Yeah.
Because it's easy. People say, well, so what if you find out you're wrong? I said, then I will change. Right. I will change direction.
I'll write a new book.
That's right. I will do something different. Right. But if I think if you base things on foundations that are solid, then people say, well, why can you be so sure about Book of Mormon geography, for example? And I say, well, the prophet hasn't spoken one way or the other, at least modern prophets. But I think Joseph Smith has made several revelatory things.
Yeah, relevant statements.
And I think if we found ourselves on those revelatory statements, then I think we're going to be in good shape. If the current prophet were to receive a revelation and said, the Book of Mormon happened in XYZ place,
right?
I don't think he's ever going to go against the revelations that Joseph Smith had.
Yeah,
so
interesting.
I think we can stick on that, hang on to that iron rod basically, and just It's kind of like Keith Merrill said one time. He said we can be like plastic man. We can be hanging on that iron rod, and we can stretch a long ways out there. God's tent is a pretty big tent when it comes down to ideas. There's only one truth out there.
Yep.
But being able to explore different ideas, I applaud you for what you're doing.
Yeah, well, I applaud you. Thank you. This has been a delightful event.
So now, where can we find out more about your research?
Good question. If this sounds interesting to you, I would check out my book, In the Language of Adam, which you can get from Amazon. But there's almost nothing in the book that I haven't said on YouTube. So if you don't have $30, I'm sympathetic. Get on YouTube. Maybe start with The Stick of Joseph, but I've also done significant time with Greg Mattson's Quick Media and with Cardin Ellis's
Word Radio.
I've been on Oak Norton's Scripture Notes a couple times, and a few others as well. If you look for my name, here's the trick. There's another Dave Butler, and he's like an Institute Come Follow Me guy, I think. But it's really easy because if you search for Dave Butler on YouTube, right? Like the other guy really doesn't look like me. Okay, he looks like a Come Follow Me guy. He's like a white shirt and tie and clean shaven. If you see a guy with a mustache,
you remind me a little bit
hair,
like Porter Rockwell.
Yeah, like
Porter Rockwell guy,
a scary looking Porter Rockwell type. Like that's me. You could if you're willing to put in the time, you could track around YouTube and listen to me and talking about all this stuff.
That's where we can find it. Or you can get the book, and or also, obviously, we want to invite people to come to be on our streaming website, which has all of the presentations. So your presentation will be there.
Yep,
it's a really inexpensive way to do it. It's less than a burger.
Yep.
For a month subscription. So if you'd like to subscribe to our YouTube channel, just go ahead and hit the subscribe button here below us here.
Yep.
And then you can go to bookofmormonevidence.org. Also, we'd love to have you join us in the spring or next fall when we have our Firm Foundation Expo, and we have, good grief, I think we had 75 speakers and 120 classes in these last couple of days. So it's been a wonderful. But thank you for joining us here.
Thanks for having me, Rod. I really appreciate it,
David. Thank you. All right, everybody.